All right, we're gonna start off here with I guess the Canadian creme de jour, like the Battle of Alberta, the thing that people have wanted for a long time, which is Flames versus Oilers, Battle of the Pacific. And while everything remains green on the Flames side, it is important to note that the player on the Oilers side is much better than anyone on the Flames side. And I think that's an important piece to throw up there. And that deserves its own green shading really around the whole thing. So these two teams matched up in the regular season.
There's a lot of shade for there, Baron.
Hey, I try not to throw much, but I know you're going to bring some heat today. So I just like might as well embrace it. Also,
have I ever
honestly,
good ones too? Yeah.
Honestly, so to tell a story about Sanjay and his family, like, for CFL football, I go to visit them. They had saved the stuff sprayed on the field, like the glitter that had fallen down on the field from when the Riders had blown the kick, the 13th man. And I walked into the house, threw it on me. Like they had saved that to throw it on me. And see, it's true. It's 100% true. And they took pictures as they threw it at me as I entered his mom and dad's house. So that's like my TSN turning point, right? That's my that's a villain origin story. Yes, that's my Joker origin story. I was 2004. I was go Calgary. I just want a Canadian team to win, and then after that, I'm just burn it down.
Oh my God.
What's the point? Riding in the window. That's how I am now from you. So I want you to think about that and just say that I'm throwing that at you now. Okay, just be aware of that.
Oh my God, so funny.
That's good.
That being said,
you should share that picture on this podcast, Sanjay.
If I could find it, yeah.
Your brother probably has it in this photo album called
framed.
It's a screensaver.
Where he just brings it up. So these two teams matched up well, actually, in the regular season, both 2-2, which is kind of a surprising record. I think when we look at this team, that this is going to be a matchup of pretty much epic proportions. This is something that's been building for over 30 years, roughly. When was the last Battle of Alberta? Does anybody remember?
1991.
91, right? So since then, both teams have had highs and lows. Both teams have had Stanley Cup aspirations and attempts at it. And now both teams find themselves back in the same fray at a time when both franchises are kind of picking up again for the first time in a while. So this battle comes, it's going to be one of the biggest moments. They've already moved the crew over. Cuthbert and Simpson will be taking over for this. And that's essentially the Sportsnet flagship commentators. So they're coming over for this series. And it guarantees that a Canadian team is going to go into the Western final. That's all you're awesome. Guaranteed. But one Canadian team will be in the third round, which is huge for most Canadian sports fans. So we're going to break this series down a little bit, and we're going to go to Ryan Pilon to start the breakdown because he's the one who has neither investment in either team. So he's just going to give us a little bit of a series breakdown here, and then Adam can tell me why he thinks the Oilers are going to win, and Sanjay can tell me why he thinks the Flames are going to win. All right, go ahead, Ryan.
Who cares?
I like it.
Okay, let's go at it. So the Flames, I think honestly they are one of the most complete teams from this season. You took a look at the stats that we showed above or beforehand, and everything was in green, right? Offensively, top 10, defensively, puck possession, special teams, goaltending. There's really no weaknesses on this team. And then you have Edmonton, who offensively can just be dangerous. And we saw how Connor McDavid can just single-handedly take over a game in a series. And I've never seen a performance like that. How one player could just single-handedly decide, no, we're going to win this game, and goes and does it. It was incredible. So, Calgary's going to have a lot to contend with there, a lot more offensively than they had against Dallas. But on the flip side, Edmonton's going to have a lot more to deal with offensively as well. They both play kind of defensive-minded teams the first round. And so now they're going to have to really, their defense is going to be much more tested this round. So, and I'm curious, you guys can fill me in on the injuries and what the latest is on all those, because I know that's going to play a key part in this as well.
That's very good, Ryan. Actually, one of the things I was going to point out was that injuries have become kind of significant for both of these teams heading into the second round. And it is important for like Calgary, who essentially I think was the team that had the least amount of man games lost to injury this season. And Edmonton had a very rough run there where they essentially lost their entire left side of their defense. So I think injuries moving forward here is a pretty significant thing. But let's go with, we'll start here with Adam on why he thinks that this is Edmonton's series to win. Go ahead.
Well, this is Edmonton's series to win because they have learned how to really deal with adversity. They were on the ropes 3-2 in this series. They came back, won in LA's building for game 6 to force game 7.
Without Darnell Nurse.
And no Darnell Nurse, completely shut the door. And actually, side note, I was like, they're having issues blocking shots. The Kings are blocking shots. They need to bring in Chris Russell. Lo and behold, in game 6, the man was key. He had a number of great block shots. One I'm thinking of in particular was on Anse Kopitar that I'm sure would have scored if he hadn't put his body on the line. Now, off to game 7, they really just lock it down. Now, keys to this series, I think, are playing not like what Calgary had played before, right? We have Dallas, which was a team that I watched virtually stand in the defensive zone and let them have their way with them. It was unbelievable. Seemed like the only player that was moving was Ottinger. And they're not going to be making that like it's going to be a different style of play for Calgary to try to adjust to, because Edmonton is going to be pouring it on. They don't sit back as much as they used to with, now that Woodcroft is their coach. They kind of pour it on. They pounce on opportunities. You see great at the first goal of the game 7. There was a massive play by Kyler Yamamoto. And once he made that play, I said out loud, because I was watching it with no one, so no one heard me, but I said, they are scoring on this play. The puck was raised and tried to be cleared out of the zone. Yamamoto, all 5'8" of them, jumped up, grabbed the puck, put it down, kept it in the zone. McDavid got it behind the net. Draisaitl got it to McDavid, and CC gets it. Ex-Leaf, let's get rid of him. Scores. And sorry, Ryan.
Ryan, it's okay. We care.
The Oilers fans are really giving it to you. The Flames fans have not said anything.
Yeah.
We haven't said boo.
But really, the X factor.
There's only one fan that's not a fan.
The really big factor for the Oilers here is McDavid's hot streak has to continue. It will. He's a major X factor player, and he backs it. How is Draisaitl's ankle? I believe it's a high ankle sprain. That's the only injury right now that we're aware of. Can Mike Smith stay in his goddamn net, not play the damn puck behind it? In game 7, 5 times I yelled, "Get in your damn net!" 5 times. Good. You're good at handling the puck. These guys are quick that are in your offensive zone, right? And then another thing I think is a key is I think the Oilers need to play the 11 forwards 7D system. They're immaculate at it. They're great at it. They're fluid with it. They're unbelievable. So those are kind of my keys to this series and staying healthy.
Okay, Sanjay, and why do you think the series is for the Calgary Flames? Why are you leaning in like a grandma? What?
Who? What'd you say, Barrett?
That you old sparkle beard?
Barrett. Why do I think the Flames are going to win? I just think, one, I think their depth is going to shine through. The Oilers have McDavid, and he's fantastic. I'm not going to say a bad thing about him because he'll probably listen to this podcast and play extra good just to spite me. But the Flames have a pretty good top line as well. It was one of the best top lines in all of hockey. But then you look at their second line, you have Mangiapane, who's a 35 goal scorer. Coleman's back-to-back cup champion. Backlund's played well. And you get your third line with Toffoli, Dubé. Those are pretty good players to have on your third line. Yeah. I think they just kind of come at you in waves. And we saw against Dallas that Calgary had 64 shots in game 7, 50 shots in game 4. It was like an onslaught. And if it wasn't for Ottinger, that series would have been 4 or 5. He played lights out. He was one of the best goaltending performances I've ever seen in a playoff series. And you look at Mike Smith and you question if he can do the same, because if Calgary gets going, and if they can put 40 shots in net a game, how many can they score on Smith? 2, 3. I mean, it's going to be a high scoring series. So, I think Markstrom as well. The goaltending battle, Smith versus Markstrom. Who would you rather have? Markstrom had tremendous numbers, but Dallas doesn't have the offensive firepower as the Oilers do. So you got to take that with a little bit grain of salt. But I mean, he made some clutch saves in overtime and the third period in a tie game, stopping a breakaway. So I think it's going to be a close series, but I just think Calgary, the depth, and one more thing is the coaching. Woodcroft has done a tremendous job with Edmonton. He's kind of changed that ship. I mean, when he took over, they weren't even in a playoff spot. And I was just about to write their obituary and start another, when is McDavid going to ask out of Edmonton tweet? But he turned that around, and they have been terrific since he's been there. And he went up and he held his own against McClellan, but now he's in a different class of coach against Sutter. And I think Sutter is one of the best coaches in NHL history. He's got 2 Stanley Cups. He knows how to work the media. He knows how to work the refs. When was the last time you saw a player get a hearing for potential suspension and then not get suspended? Right? Like every time there's a hearing, you always get suspended. And I was like, Zadorov's gone for at least one, and he didn't get suspended. And I think Sutter going in the media saying that shouldn't be a suspension. That was just a hockey play. I think that played a little bit into it. I think he can manipulate in the press conference. And could Woodcroft match that? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. It's a big learning curve for him going up against a coach like Sutter. So I think that's going to play a little part in Calgary coming out with the victory.
Man, you say so many things that I just want to comment on, but it's like I can't because there's so much.
Oh,
you gotta write it down.
You know what Sutter said in his press conference?
Yeah, exactly. Like Sutter's going to say 3 words.
Good morning. The geese were out with their ducklings.
I love how the Babcock impersonation slowly became the Sutter impersonation, and then will slowly become a
Sutter one. I got a better Sutter one.
But when was the last time you saw a player not get suspended from having a hearing? That's like
Can
an
you
automatic
show me
suspension.
a single thing that had to do with his coach actually having any influence on that?
Well, I mean, how did he not get suspended?
Because he hit the guy like it was literally a legal check based on their size.
But then why did they even have a hearing, right? Like, I think the NHL player safety was going to suspend him. And then I think maybe behind the scenes, maybe the Flames,
conspiracy theories. When you have to make a video for this, Ryan, you just make a conspiracy theories video. This is the first one. I do want to point out a couple things though, because Sunday did hit on some of the things that I think are important and need to be talked about in this. But I'm going to give you guys a quick question here for part of this now, and that has to do with goaltending. So playoff goals saved above expected by May 15th, all situations, expected goals against. Who are the top 3 and in what order? Okay, playoffs so far. The top 3 goaltenders in playoff goals saved above expected.
I think number 1 is Mike
3?
Smith. Number 2 is Markstrom, I think, and then
it was Mike Smith, Ottinger, and
I'm sure Ottinger's
Markstrom.
Yeah, in what order?
It was Ottinger, Mike Smith, Markstrom.
Exactly. So I understand. Which goaltender would you have more faith in? Probably Markstrom. But right now, Mike Smith has had the better performance. And I would also argue Ottinger had a way better performance. They still lost. I mean, so you're right. That doesn't necessarily matter. But I mean, it will be up from today. But it is an interesting stat that Mike Smith's that high up there right now. So just something to think about.
Well, he was red hot at the end of the season, right? So it's just continued into the playoffs.
Well, he's hardly played this year, too,
yeah.
Right? Like, that's a weird part of it.
I will say with Smith, though, he has been making some terrific saves and keeping them in games. But every once in a while, he has let in a leaky goal and has kind of turned the tide. Like, you watch that LA series, I can't remember which one, they tie it up. Yep. And then LA scores a weak 5-hole goal, and then the momentum turns completely in LA's favor. Whereas Markstrom's only given up maybe 1 bad goal all series.
At 5-hole one.
And so they won off of amazing goals for a team that shot 10, 15 times. Fair enough. The other thing that you pointed to that I do think is going to be true here, and maybe Ryan can talk a little bit about this part, which is I think this is going to be a very different series. Like we saw 2 highly defensive structured teams, and it's not that the teams aren't defensively structured, Calgary and Edmonton, but they're both very different. And I think this is going to be a much more open a shooting affair. It doesn't mean it'll be high scoring, but I think you're going to see very different games. And I think you're going to see some of that animosity and stuff boil over. I think these have the potential to be shootout games for the playoffs. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that?
Is Tanev out?
Yes.
Yeah, it's looking
He was
like
out last game.
Yeah, he hurt his back in game 6. After they scored, like it was like a bang play. Stars player fell on top of him, and I think his like back or his like head hit the ice. It was very like quick play, and so he left the game and he didn't play game 7. And knowing Chris Tanev, like he played last year meaningless games with a torn pec muscle. So if there was any way he could have played a game 7 in the playoffs, he would have been there. So I think it's
so
quite
he's
serious.
yeah. And then didn't they have some other defensemen hurt? Was Shillington,
Shillington
went
Yeah.
right into
Yes,
the boards
shoulder.
hard, and then was
Yeah.
on the bench grabbing his arms, screaming.
Oh,
It looked
yeah,
like he was
came
saying,
back.
I can't lift.
I can't believe he came back. Actually,
Me
I was
either.
like, he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he doesn't come back, they don't win. You can't win with, was it 4? It would have been 5 defensemen, and it would have
Mhm.
been like,
Yeah.
he played like some heavy minutes in third period and overtime. Credit to Shillington. That was such a gritty performance.
Also felt like Dallas waited till the overtime to actually start to try.
Yeah.
I was like, now they're skating. You've had like an entire third
They were playing
period.
rope-a-dope.
100%.
Teams
Yeah.
that without skill do that though. They'll just sit around and just clog up in front of the net and then try for a odd man rush or something. Like whenever they get a chance, they'll try to take it, but they're fine just limiting the chances as much as possible.
Mhm.
And that's what we dealt with Montreal really last year, and it's a very frustrating but team to play against. But luckily, you're able to break through Calgary.
Mhm.
So, but the reason I was asking was about injuries is I think. Yeah, like I think that will also play a big factor because if Tanev's out, if Shilton's playing hurt, I don't know how banged up that defensive core is for the Flames, but it's hard enough to try and contain McDavid with a healthy defense. Now you take out your top pairing defenseman. Where's
That's the
Shillington
guy
play?
that
Is he
keys
top
on.
4?
Yeah.
Is he in the bottom?
Shillington's top 4. Yeah, he
Is he?
plays
So-
with Tanev. Yeah.
Oh God! So that's their number 1 and
Oh.
2.
That's their number 2 pair. So their number 1 pair is Hannafin Anderson.
Yeah.
But then
Oh,
Tanev
really?
plays with Shillington as
Oh,
number
okay.
2.
I thought Tanev played with Hanifin. Okay, maybe that was
No.
just last year.
Yeah, I think that was last year.
Oh, okay. I didn't obviously watch a lot of Calgary games this year, so
Wow. Now
but-
you have lots of time to watch them.
yeah, exactly. So, but anyways, that's a big thing. And then also how hurt is Draisaitl and how well can he play? Because if McDavid has to carry the whole offense for Edmonton, I think they're going to find it much more difficult to do this time around. So that'll be interesting.
It's funny that you say that. Like, and one of the things that I find really shocking here is that it's basically everyone says it's a high ankle sprain, and it occurred on that play where Anderson grabbed him and pulled him backwards in the scrum. But I remember when Crosby had his high ankle sprain, he didn't play for 4 weeks. Like he was out. This was a while ago now. This was a long time ago. In the series of when you go by Sidney Crosby and he's in the Hall of Fame, they should also have a list of injuries beside him because it's amazing what he's actually gone through.
Mhm.
And I think it says a lot to his style and his
He
perseverance.
plays a tough game. Yeah.
He does. Yeah. And, but I mean, the fact that Draisaitl's out there with a high ankle sprain is pretty impressive. And
I mean, it's no Bobby Baugh, but yeah, it's pretty impressive.
yeah.
They're
I
gonna
mean,
make a
still,
song about Draisaitl.
I don't know. That Flames rap was pretty bad. That one that
What
was
do you
on there.
mean?
You would listen to it. Honest to God.
I
All
will say that song that the Oilers have, La Bamba. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one. I dig it. I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna
That's
give it props
Joey
for
Moss's favorite. That's why
Yeah.
they brought it in.
it. Yeah,
That's
I
why they
like
did
it.
it.
I like it. It's a good one.
right, we're going with our predictions. We're going to start with Sanjay, go to Ryan, Adam, and then myself, and we'll go with that. So, Sanjay, what is your prediction for this series?
Oh, well, I pretty much nailed it last round saying Calgary in 7, and you guys all laughed at me. I'm gonna say Calgary in 6. It would be nice to win it in Edmonton ice. Something a little extra special, but I gotta go with the Flames. No matter what, even if Gaudreau was injured and Kachuk wasn't playing and Markstrom was out, I still say Flames. So I'm gonna say Flames in 6.
Fair enough. Ryan?
Honestly, this is kind of a toss-up for me. Like I said, I think a lot of it will depend on who's injured and who's playing hurt and how well they can perform. I think that could end up being the difference. Also, can Mike Smith continue his hot streak? I don't really think he is a 940 save percentage goalie, but he's been playing it since the trade deadline. So can he keep that going? Overall, I just think the Flames are a more complete team. I think offensively and defensively, whereas, Edmonton's more offensive focused. So I will go Flames, but like I said, I think it's going to be very, very tight. I could see this going 7.
Adam.
Oilers in 6.
I'm surprised you giving us 2 games. I thought you were gonna say Oilers in 4.
I wanted to say 5. I really wanted to say, my gut says 5, but I'm going 6.
And I'll cap it off with Oilers in 7. I think this is going to be a tight affair. And I still think that the X factor, I watched McDavid do stuff that when they lost to
Jordan-esque.
When they lost to Winnipeg, I remember there was a time where there was a shot and McDavid was out there and it's like, that guy's not going to block a shot. I think he would have used his face to block a shot this last series if it meant they would win. And that is something that I have not seen before. And that is my hope. And that is where I put it. And if not, I will rest on the fact that, hey, man, my team got to the second round and I'll enjoy that.